Hello and welcome back to Will's World Reviews and More. I think this is my fourth video of the day, so quite productive. And this is when I'm going to start of a new series I mentioned in my What's Coming Up video, talking about my favourite wrestlers to begin with and then individual wrestlers as we go on. So I thought, what better place to start than someone who has only recently become one of my favourite wrestlers. I think a year ago, if someone had even told me his name, I wouldn't have known his existence. So the rise in his kind of stock with me has been quite meteoric, as in contrast to his rise as a wrestler. I'm of course talking about CM Punk. Now the reason this kind of series came about was last night I was watching a guy on YouTube. I won't mention his name just because I quite like his videos and I don't want any CM Punk fans kind of going over there and abusing him. But he was kind of made a video criticising CM Punk, and whilst I can empathise with that because I would probably end up doing a similar video about John Cena, I wanted to just kind of do a response in a way. And by no means this video is going to be a CM Punk loving type thing. I will also kind of pick up on his criticisms and some of the reasons I think why people don't like him as much as they do like him. But yeah, basically my thoughts on CM Punk. So like I said, I didn't really know who he was. You know, obviously as I initially watched wrestling, I don't think he was anywhere near WWE at that time. He was still in Ring of Honor, backyard wrestling even when I first started. But as I left, I think he was in Ring of Honor / TNA, and then he got signed up with WWE when they brought back, or when in OVW, wasn't it? And then obviously the ECW brand, Paul Heyman, took him there. When I first heard about him, it was when I was working at a toy shop over Christmas, and I started in July, so it was around about the time that people had realised that Punk was gone. You know, obviously he was in the 2014 Rumble, wasn't it? Didn't turn up after that, and then people were kind of questioning it. And then by the time that I started working in the toy shop, which was last summerish, it was pretty evident. And then obviously we had the announcement pretty soon after that he'd been fired or suspended or left, or however you want to debate about it. And I didn't really research much more about him. I started getting into wrestling again. It was before I had the network, obviously, before that was available. So I was just going by what I could find on the internet, mainly looking at stuff that I'd kind of liked as a kid. So I was looking at, Austin and Shawn Michaels. And it really was, Punk was an afterthought. In the end, the spark was, I was at the toy shop. I noticed that they'd reduced all the CM Punk figures because he was no longer part of WWE anymore. So in the end, I ended up getting Elite 29 CM Punk with discount, because it was already discounted for being an old figure now, or an outdated figure, plus my discount. I got him for 10 quid, and I thought it was too good to pass up for an Elite figure of someone who I'd already started to kind of like, but not in the same way as it would become apparent. So I bought that figure, kind of left it on the shelf, didn't open it for a bit, and then when I got round to January and started doing all my figure reviews, I opened it, didn't really think much more to it, and I'd started to research a bit more about him, and I liked him, but at first I was a bit more like, well, this is just guys just whinging and moaning all the time. I don't really know what to think about him. And it wasn't until I watched the CM Punk documentary on the network that I really kind of got into grips with this guy and decided that I would make, well, not an effort, because you don't have to be, that's the whole point, it's not an effort when you like somebody. But I really became inspired by him, and he became one of my favourite wrestlers almost immediately. And then you can tell from my channel now that I've got more figures of CM Punk than I have of any other wrestler. Not of all the figures combined, but I've definitely got quite a few. And so here's my kind of reasons why I like him. I think, he's a great wrestler, like technically ability. He might not be at the same level of, say, Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart, but he's definitely up there, and I think in time we will begin to appreciate that a lot more, especially with him now not wrestling anymore. This guy who watched the video last night was saying that his promos, weren't as good as people made out, but they really were, especially when you contrast them to the fact that they had nobody else at the time, WWE, who could cut a similarly good promo. I mean, Triple H's promos are always pretty good. Shawn Michaels retired, obviously. The Shield were alright, kind of at cutting promos. Cena's just Cena. There really wasn't anyone else. So when you had Punk coming out and doing these pipe bombs and everything, it really was great. And yeah, all right. If you're going to compare every single promo to Stone Cold Steve Austin, yeah, they probably won't match up. But Punk's were pretty awesome. Um, I like the fact that he made his way through the Indies. That he paid his dues, as it were. Um, Even working in TNA, for crying out loud. So I like that about him as well. I like that he speaks his mind. That is always something I've admired in people, especially with people who have similar thoughts to me. And I just like that he is willing to stick up for the younger guys. It was evident from that documentary. He was trying to help them. He was always willing to kind of give a fair shout. I don't know what it is. It's just that's what happens sometimes. You end up. You end up kind of relating to a person, and you're not quite sure sometimes. It's just something inside, and that is the reason first and foremost. And you can build the rest of it around. And I just like the fact that he was, that genuinely disgruntled employee, but he still gave it all. He still had the injuries. He still did what he was told. Everyone has been to work, and they don't agree with the boss, but they still do it anyway. CM Punk's like, no, I don't want to face the Undertaker, but I'll do it anyway. So he did it. And what did he do? Had an awesome match. Best match on the card that night. He was like, no, I don't agree with dropping the title to a part-timer in The Rock, but I'll do it. And he did it anyway and had another great match and got on with it. Yes, he might moan a bit about it, but that's only right. It's not as if he moaned about it and refused to do it like Goldberg or someone like that in WCW. No, I'm not fighting Jericho. I like that he's got an opinion, and I just think people hate him because he either hates on their favourite wrestlers. Yeah, he's had a fair whack at Triple H and The Rock and Cena. And if you're a massive, massive fan of one of those guys, then yeah, you're bound to be upset by that guy. But don't take away from his wrestling ability. For the longest time, I was against Bret Hart because of the whole Shawn Michaels. I was a massive Shawn Michaels fan, but now I can appreciate them both. And I think people are probably cutting their nose off to spite the face with CM Punk in a way. Just because he had a go at someone they like, don't let that influence you, because you'll waste a lot of time and you'll miss out on some great matches from a great wrestler and a great promo cutter. And as going forward, what it's going to be like in the UFC, I don't know. I hope he doesn't get his ass kicked, because I really don't want to see that on a massive level. But if he wants to give it a go, then fair enough. And a lot of people saying he's just doing it for the money, then fair. Why not? Let him do it. People. I don't get why people get angry. It's same in soccer or football. With the manager leaving. If you got a chance to go to a better job with more money and less hours or whatever, or something like that, of course you're going to take it. Of course you are. Yes, your loyalty is maybe a little bit hurt and you're kind of upset, but fair play to Punk for that. And I'm interested to see what happens in his UFC career. And hopefully he'll move on to maybe something else. I know he's doing his comic books. Someone needs to give this guy a TV show in the future, I think. Because I think it'll be interesting. And I guess I've missed out the whole straight edge thing, which for me is a little bit kind of, I'm not sure where to stand on it, because I do respect his beliefs, and I like that about him as well. So that all added up to it. But I think to summarise really what it is about CM Punk that has kind of got him as number 2 in my top 5 wrestlers of all time. Like I said, Stone Cold's number 1, and pretty securely I would say. But Punk, if he ever came back to the WWE, I think he would have potential to move up to number 1 full time kind of thing. I know it doesn't really matter. It's not as if he's going to care if he's my favourite wrestler or not. But for me, he has got that potential because I can relate to him. And I think that's what people want in a wrestler. They want someone they can relate to. Someone who's realistic also. Someone who says what he wants. Basically what they got with Austin, but on a different, without insulting Austin in a way, on a more intelligent and articulate level. And that is something that the WWE haven't got right now. I think it's something they could have. They need to push the guys like Ambrose and Rollins. I think they have the ability to work the mic in the same way, and I think they were both helped by Punk. So that kind of illustrates, again, his legacy moving forward. That's about it, guys. That's my thoughts on CM Punk. I hope you like it. In the end, it was more of a kind of more positive rather than criticism. So let's just talk about a couple of criticisms. I've got a bit more time. He doesn't help himself sometimes because he does come across as a bit of an arrogant prick, and a poor me type guy. He does whinge a bit. I think that's the thing. People often associate him with that, and I think people just don't think he kind of appreciates what he's got, and to some extent, maybe. I think it's difficult for me to express any more than that in terms of negatives because, like I say, I'm a big fan. So I'm interested in hearing your guys' thoughts. Put some constructive negatives down below, and then maybe I can kind of adjust to that and see if I can take any on board. But like I said, this has been my kind of opinion on him. I will do another video of one of my favourite wrestlers soon. Until then, thanks for watching. Keep liking, commenting, subscribing, and I will see you soon. Peace.